Real talk, raw faith, stay unfiltered. Welcome back to Echoes Unfiltered. I'm your host, Sam Stratton. Today, I've got Jay. He spent some time in Afghanistan, and we're going to talk to Jay, go through a few questions, and just find out what his time was like and how he deals with things today. So, with that, Jay, welcome to the program.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So, Jay, why don't you tell me a little bit, for people who don't know you, when did your service begin, and was it a family thing, or is it just something you decided to do?
Oh man, that's a wild trip. So actually, I joined 2012, and I only ended up doing 4 years. I was in it for the long haul. I was going to do a full 20. My oldest brother was an Army Ranger, and he was part of the hunt for Osama bin Laden. So I'd always
That's some
hear
big
stuff
shoes to
from
fill.
him. Yeah, he was a really tough guy. He was one of the, in my opinions, like one of the OG Rangers, like the people that I would look up to. When I think of the word Ranger, it was him. You know, the guy's eating
Mm-hmm.
snakes and stuff, right? But at any rate, so my middle brother was in as well, and I'd always told myself like I'm gonna try the music thing, see how far I can get with that. Maybe transition to business, do something else completely. And I graduated high school, and I started working in a car dealership. And I moved to a location, and unfortunately, at the desk right next to me was like an Air Force veteran, and he kept, every single day kind of influencing me a little bit on, about joining. And then I'd get back home, and my oldest brother finished his service, so he was back home, and he would start pushing me as well. So I was just getting it from everywhere. Now you can only imagine, I had hair down to my shoulders and stuff. I was way in it.
Yeah,
And finally, I went all in. I shaved my head. I'm like, they're gonna cut my hair when I join anyway. Just mentally prepare for
get
it
it
a
over
bit.
with.
Yep, yep. So I went to the recruiter, and the thing was, here the crazy thing was, I had an appointment with the Army office at first, and I didn't want to be a Ranger, so I was looking into like the Green Beret stuff and just something that's not what anybody else in my family had done. But they had some really like overweight, lazy guy that was working in the Army office, and they loved to take their days off. And so when I had an appointment with him, all the doors were closed. Nobody was answering the phone, nothing. And the Marine desk was right across the hall. And he's like, "Hey, what you doing, buddy?" you know, I guess they're not supposed to do that, but they did it anyway.
Oh,
And
that's funny.
and I could, my life could have gone a million different ways too. They tried getting me on like Motor T. They tried getting me on open contract, but I was just dead set in my mind. I'm like, I mentally prepared for this one very specific thing, and if I can't get it, then I don't want it. And they're like, well, infantry's backed up months and months and months. And I said, I don't care, however long it takes. And I'm going to jump forward just a little bit real quick, but
Yeah, go ahead.
when I got out of infantry training, one of my good buddies, he almost immediately deployed. He went with 1-9, and then I got in with 1-2, and then we ended up doing the rip with them too. So, it
All
was
right.
his unit and my unit, and then we were done with Afghanistan deployments.
You said the Marine recruiter kind of snatched you up on there, so I'm assuming you ended up in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Okay, and you ended up in the Marine Corps. What years did you serve?
So I was in 2012 to 2016, and like I said before we started, is originally I was thinking of doing a full 20, but I don't know how the Army is. I can't say anything about them, but with the Marine Corps, they will really wear down all your ligaments, every little tiny piece of you. They'll squeeze it out. So at the end of the 4 years, I'm like, my knees are shot, my back's shot. There's no way I'm doing another one of these things.
Yep, and that's why, as an Army guy, whenever I have people come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about joining the military," I'm like, "Go in the Air Force. Just go
Yeah,
in the Air Force.
the
Don't
same
be a
same
Marine. Don't
message.
be an Army guy."
Get some translatable skills. I was talking to some Vietnam vet over Veterans Day, and he was an air traffic controller. Could you imagine, like, it just do the minimum contract these days, be an air traffic controller, and then get six figures when you leave?
Yeah, I mean that's some good forward thinking.
Yeah, for a lot of us, all these combat veterans, it's just kind of, this is a job you can't do anywhere else.
Yeah,
Why am I going to join the military when you watch all these movies and they're doing this kind of stuff? Why do I want to turn a wrench?
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, we need those people, but that's
Yeah,
just wasn't what I wanted to do.
I'm not gonna downplay anybody's service, but you know, uh, I do appreciate the work that they did, but it's definitely
Yeah.
not why I joined. I know the Army, they ended up doing a lot of those advertisements trying to tell people like that we don't just have infantry jobs. But
Hmm.
I do want to say, so when I was in, they just barely reactivated the Raiders. So when we looked at the infantry, it was like the most you could be is you could go reconnaissance or you could go scout sniper. And, reconnaissance, most of their job at that time was not direct engagements. It wasn't like the force reconnaissance. It was actual like way back and doing real recon. So when we looked at the infantry, we figured like this is the top of the line. But when I was starting to get out and they reactivated the Raiders, they pulled like the Hulk out of every single unit. They pulled out the top of the top. But then I ended up doing contracting when I got out because we all get that combat itch. We all want to do it again. And I served with some of these Army guys. And I was like, did you do this? Did you do that? And I hear a lot of no. I'm kind of surprised. I always think like, oh, Army infantry, Marine infantry, probably the same thing. But like my very specific job was machine gunner. And I talked to these Army guys, they're like 11 Bravo, and they happen to sometimes have a machine gun. I'm like,
Right. It's like, who in my squad am I going to give this to?
yeah, I was surprised to hear that because we have advanced machine gunner. We do like high angle fire. We do like ruck runs with the machine gun. Like this is your child. This is the one
Yeah.
thing that you learn about. And tell you something crazy. We were doing a training one day, and I had a really strange malfunction on the 50 cal, and they're like, "You're gonna have to go single fire." And I'm like, "Oh, dang it," But
What fun is
you
single
get
fire?
so good and so comfortable with these weapon systems that single fire, and I was hitting the target like way all the way down the range perfectly every time because that's just what they hammer in you. I don't mess
Yeah.
with
You were
rifles. I
comfortable
don't
with your
mess with
equipment.
mortars. What's that?
You were comfortable with your equipment.
Yeah, exactly.
You bring up being in Afghanistan, and like I said, everybody knows I was in Iraq. One thing that I found that was really cool, I thought, we're stateside. I'm going to call you a cran eater. You're going to pick on me. Ain't ready to be a Marine yet. That's what I mean. I get it. We have that back and forth, and I love it. But when I was in country, we were in a Marine controlled area. My combat patch is actually a Marine patch. It's the first MEF patch because they controlled the land where we were. But there was never any of that in Iraq. We thought they were freaking nuts for going in and kicking the doors of the houses they were kicking in, and they thought we were nuts for going to dig up bombs. I mean, but we worked awesome together. Never had any issue. There was never Army better, Marine, nothing like that. And it was just really cool just to know that we were all one fighting force. What was your experience in Afghanistan?
So I've kind of noticed like, yeah, when you're actually doing your job there, you strip all the MOS, you strip all the branches because like I'm relying on you, so I come home. You're relying on me, so you come home.
Yep.
In fact, I'd imagine for most of us, what we do is you kind of shed yourself and you start focusing on the unit. And so as much as I dig on all these other MOSs and whatnot, the only casualties we had while we were overseas specific to my unit were attached engineers that were doing route clearance. They hit probably the biggest bomb in the entire time we'd been over there. Our advanced unit did, our actual guys, not route clearance, but our own people. And so the point is, though, that these people doing route clearance, they kind of make sure that doesn't happen. They're the guys that put themselves at risk so that you can take all these routes in between. So, as much as there is a little digging back and forth, it really goes to show you how combined arms really all works together. I always remember the three people that we lost from the route clearance.
Yeah, they stick with you. They really do. What years did you say you were Afghanistan?
Uh, it was all 2014. Off the
14. Okay.
top, like the months are what kind of trips me up. Like, what months were you there? I believe I know for a fact at least April I was over there, and it's going back and reading these news articles that go, oh yeah, that month I was there for that month.
Yeah.
I know like the year I was there, but
I've
months
been
I
going
couldn't tell
back
you.
and looking at videos that I made, and I am so glad on a lot of them I say what month it is and what year it is because I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, it was 06, 07, somewhere in there. It was kind of crazy.
Well, when I got out and I started filing VA claims and I claimed a TBI, and the worst one, I believe they asked even like specific day. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I didn't keep a journal. Hey, I blew up on this day, this hour. That no, dude. I just
Yeah.
did it, and then I rest, and I went back to work.
I do remember the day I got blown up. It was 4 days before Christmas.
I've gotten mine about 3 times, so it kind of goes of like which one was it, how bad was it,
Yeah.
and the sad thing is like you can say I think I got it better than somebody else because some of these guys they hit it and they hit one so big they don't come home.
Yep.
Some of those only the blasting cap went off, and when I say blasting cap, I don't, for anybody listening, like it's not these little
It's
civilian
not a
blasting
firecracker.
caps. Yeah, no, these things are like many pounds of a blasting cap, and that's the concussive force in itself. And then we were lucky that the main charge didn't go off, and we had EOD to get out.
Yeah. I had somebody ask me the other day on one of my what TikToks or Reels or something. I don't remember. When I had some explosions I was showing and some routes, I had somebody ask me the other day, how long do you have to wait for EOD? And the good thing about it was EOD normally rolled with us. Either we'd pick them up
Oh.
on route or they'd roll with us out. So the few times that we did have to wait for EOD, oh my gosh, they take forever to get out there.
So we had EOD inside of our patrol base, but even then, you could be waiting all day. You could just be
Yeah,
sitting in a security posture. And
we had some rock star EOD guys from the Navy, though. I'll tell you, we had some Marine ones too that were just freaking nuts. But
okay, let me tell you about our EOD guys. They're like, when you're in and everybody's so gung ho and so serious, here comes this guy with the most sloppy haircut you've ever got. And he talks to you like a normal guy. And inside their
relaxed.
vehicle, it's just two of them. It's just two of them. They got a refrigerator, full of like whatever they want, energy drinks, sodas, yeah, probably beers if they get in the freaking
Yeah,
mail. We all love the EOD guys, and a lot of them are former infantry because like they still want to kind of see action, but they get that EOD pay and they get the better specialized education, and then they get out and they get to do these cool bomb diffusing jobs. So EOD has always been really cool, but for us now, it would take a long time.
yeah. We had one specific EOD guy sticks in my mind, and I can't remember his name. He was Marine EOD. He was earlier on in my deployment, and in Iraq we were traveling some old canal roads, and I hated canal roads because you get hit and you tip over. You're going into the water into the canal and it's deep and you're rollover drills whatever you're going in. So we were coming up to this one canal road, and one of our Huskies, our mine detection stuff, went over. And when he got over it, he hit a pressure plate that must have gotten moved, or I don't know what happened, but the pressure plate, he was already off the canal by the time he blew it up. So this blew up half of the bridge going over the canal. And there's only a little bit left. And I'm behind him, and I got to be the next vehicle to go. And I said, got on the radio. I said, I don't want to sound like a Sally here or anything, but anybody want to check out this hole before I drive over it and see if there's another bomb? Next thing I know, this Marine EOD guy jumps out of the Buffalo. Now, keep in mind, this is his last mission before he goes home. Jumps out of the Buffalo, runs up there with a flashlight, starts looking around. He's like, "Yeah, you're good. Come on." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, dude, you're nuts. You're freaking
Yeah.
nuts." I
I
said, "Well, I
love them.
guess
They're
if he
they're
can
a
walk
different
out there, I
breed.
can drive over it."
Yeah, they're a different breed, man. I love
Yes,
EOD
they are.
guys. They all
Yes,
have their unique personalities too. They're all weird in a different way. That reminded me of something kind of interesting though.
hit it.
We had one time where I am 100% certain a suicide bomber changed their mind halfway through. So we had all this intel when we were doing our operation. Like, here's a white sedan, like an old 80s, 90s Corolla or Camry, and all loaded up. Like, they had all the intel they could ever possibly get on this thing. And we're doing mobile operations. So we have like all the riflemen inside doing their dismounts and whatnot. And we get to the village where we're going basically house to house inspecting. And so to paint a picture for anyone that doesn't know, these are all basically mud huts. They have these mudden walls all the way up and no roof, no nothing, totally open. I did not live in a city area. There's almost no electricity there. It's all just like what we call waffle fields. So just completely barren, nothing where they irrigate it that way. And so, keep in mind while we're doing these mobile patrols, you're bumping the whole entire way. And I distinctly remember this one because there was this unmarked well. So you're talking about holes and you're talking about ditches and stuff. This thing went straight down to hell. I mean, this thing, there was no end to it. You could throw a huge rock in it and you would not hear it hit the bottom. And I remember this distinctly because I tell my driver, I'm like, I see something, I don't know what that is. And then next thing you know, we go boom, straight down it, wheel in it. And he starts freaking out. He's like, you should have told me it was there and blah, 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 and whatever. And I'm like, well, now we're paused. I got to tell you, dude, I'm sorry. Then I get back up on defensive posture, and we're moving our guns around, making sure we have all full coverage. And
Yep.
there comes that white sedan slowly creeping up all by itself, and everybody kind of shifts their gun directly at this guy because we're like, I if you get up to this area, we're gonna light him up because you do your escalation of force. You got your flags, and then we
Right.
all start shooting our pin flares. And by then they should know, like, this is your warning to get out. You've gotten your pin flares. It's time to go. And next thing you know, he turns around and he leaves. So, anyways, we're doing a return back to base, and we're through this village, right, in the middle of nighttime. So we're all doing nighttime operations, and our vehicle commander at the lead vehicle got the route completely wrong, and we ended up passing in the middle of like this village where there's like basically no return, and it's really hard to get through. So we all got funneled actually into this L-shaped bend, and when that happens, you guys are gonna piss off the villagers. So they're all gonna see, what the heck are you doing? We're passing back through this L-shaped funnel, and I'd seen some weird things through NVGs, but what I will say for a fact is people got their clothes stolen by villagers. We just got them all washed and we had them in the side of the vehicle ready to go back to the patrol base. And the villagers all started picking those out. So the staff sergeant in command had to do something. You can't just light people up. And we're not going to be kicking down stuff. Who knows what anybody has. This could turn real messy really quick. You're a lot
Yeah.
safer inside the armored vehicle. I mean, we're on top of the vehicle. We're telling them, hey, get away, get away, get away. And
Big
we
orange
learn
flags
orange
waving,
flags. We
pen
learn the local
flares.
language. You can have like this cheat sheet of phrases that you can tell
Mm-hmm.
them. And everybody's all telling them these phrases. The
All I knew
only
was
last,
Merhaba,
we're probably pronouncing them wrong, to be honest.
but
But
I'm sure.
but the one thing we have left is flares. They're not even non-lethal rounds. They're just flares. I've been hit with them before. They don't normally hurt. If people don't know, it's really hard to explain to them that Iraq and Afghanistan are totally different. Like I'm basically in the middle of a wide open desert. They still think we're the Russian forces from the 70s.
Yeah, some could. I mean, if Afghanistan knows how to do something, it's to keep fighting, because
Oh
that's all
yeah.
they've ever known. I mean, for hundreds of years.
Well, my seniors, the people way, way before me, were talking about fighting alongside the Mujahideen that fought the Russians way back when, and those were some real people. But when it changed to the Taliban, the students, that it was just completely different.
I'm going to ask you a little harder question when I say this, I guess, depending on how you take it. You spent time in Afghanistan. You had brothers die. Do you think we wasted our time there? Or do you think we did anything good?
So I've thought about this so much because, as I said, I was there in 2018. I believe we pulled out, what was it, 2019, 2020? And, so
It was after 2020.
I actually got to see what it looked like. And when they did the pullout, it was exactly how I saw it when in 2018. The only thing we had there was a skeleton force. You had Rangers leaving at nighttime, and the Rangers were constant, and then the special operations or special forces attachment was somebody different. It was Navy SEALs, it was MARSOC. We had Australian special forces come in. And when you'd leave that special operations base and you'd go into the main one, those guys weren't doing anything, and they'd all complain about not doing anything. It was mainly just to show them, like, hey, we're here. And as I said, that we demilitarized Leatherneck and we left that to the local forces. Well, in 2018, they were actually desperately calling for like contractors and Afghan commandos, the Tiger forces. They were calling for people to that RC Southwest.
Is that where you became a contractor, or was that something else?
I was in Kabul. So I was all east side. I was based out of Kabul. I went to Jbad. I went to H Kaya. I went to everything all around that eastern area. And so that was a vastly different experience to what I saw in 2014, because as 2014, I was part of the main force that was there on the southwestern side in Helmand province, where in Kabul, they have a movie theater, they have a university, they have electricity, they have power lines. In the main base there, they have subway. I mean, it's a town. It's real buildings with roofs, and
Yeah.
in Helmand, it is absolutely different, and that's where you get some of these people that get way too bored, and then they like I've seen kids growing up basically beating each other for fun, and so those they were definitely primed and ready for the force that we ended up fighting against. And even today, you can read in reports that they're getting bored. They don't like, having this peacetime. A lot of them don't. So, yeah, at any rate, so we're talking about main operations in Kabul in 2018. What I saw was that skeleton force, and they'd get reinforcements when they need. We weren't really losing a lot of people. Now, the flip side is the Afghans were. I'd seen an entire unit that was attached to the Rangers, and they were smiling, they were having fun, they were enjoying, nice American base food. And then just 1 or 2 days later, you'd only see like or two of them on base, and they looked really sad. And you come to find out, every single one of them died.
Wow.
Yeah. The military sure squeezed out every penny they could out of me. They sent me to 7 different countries in total. And, so after the war is over, and I hate peacetime so much. The dumbest things all happen in peacetime. And so they sent me on every training, everything they possibly could. And I'll never forgive them for this one. So I'm getting close to the end of my contract. And so what I forgot to mention is when I joined the military, and if you're in the Marine Corps and you step on the yellow footprints, that's the beginning of training for you, right? We got through the gates on Paris Island. I didn't even get to the yellow footprints. And immediately I said to myself, oh no, I don't want to do this. And then they know there's people thinking exactly what I'm thinking. So then they hammer you.
Most of them are thinking that.
Yeah, so then they hammer you. They're like, if you quit now, you'll never be able to get a job. We're going to give you a dishonorable, and you can't even own a gun, and you can't do this. And you're just like, dang, I already signed all the papers. I'm stuck.
I signed up for free boots and a free uniform. I got a lot more.
One of my seniors that I talked about, he was fighting with the Mujahideen. He couldn't re-enlist because at that time the Marine Corps is very strict on tattoos. And so I said, I'm going to get in trouble if I do this, but then I can't re-enlist. I got tattoos that were slightly out of regulation. So I'm like, you can't change your mind. You got to get out. And so just before I'm leaving, and everybody knew I wouldn't re-enlist, they sent me to Jordan. Not only did they send me to Jordan, they took us out of Jordan just before we'd get a ribbon for being there. 2 days shy.
Really? That's kind of
no joke. 2 days. And so when we were in Afghanistan, we got screwed a lot there as well. We were supposed to get, because we were the last unit, we were supposed to get a presidential unit citation, a meritorious unit citation. We did some great stuff. The meritorious got knocked down. You're not getting that. The presidential's still sitting in the pipeline somewhere. I don't think we're ever going to get that. And, the commandant was thanking everybody. So I was there for this speech. Most people didn't get to attend it. And the commandant of the Marine Corps comes on the Leatherneck from the United States, flies all the way here just to give a speech one time, right? And so everybody that can, you have to be here. and he's thanking everybody. He's, thank you to the admin guys from this unit. Thank you to the logistical guys from that unit, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about 1-7 from California. I was with 1-2. He almost finishes his speech, and the sergeant major tucks him in the ear, and he goes, and 1-2. I'm like, you turd, dude. I'm getting screwed my whole career. What's going on, man? Oh my goodness. After Afghanistan was done, I had to do the whole Korea thing, and I had a medical scare, and I got sent to the hospital. And I almost got helicoptered out, but everything was perfectly fine. And I go back on base, and I'm like, well, I don't have to work. Let me grab a beer. And so the officers and staff enlisted that I served a combat deployment with, and we all made sure we were safe together. And we're bros. We're definitely tight. They're like, how freaking dare you? And they're like screaming and getting in my face. And they're like, you don't care about us and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, how about good job you're not, injured or anything? What the heck, man?
Interesting.
I don't know about you. I haven't had a lot of camaraderie after I got out either. We don't really keep up with each other.
I'd say it's a little easier for me because I was a reservist my whole career, and the guys I got activated with, most of them live around Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, in this area, Illinois, in this area. So it's a little easier for us to get together. I actually had a reunion with about a dozen of the guys at my cabin this last fall. And it's something we're going to maybe try to start doing every year just to get back together. And, some of the guys I was in with are still in. Some of them are deployed again. Some of them, they're first sergeants and sergeant majors now. It's cool.
So you've been in a while, and you did Iraq too. So I think one thing that might be worth talking about is all these weird health problems that people get after combat deployments that normal people don't get. Have you had any experience with that?
I personally have not. We have had at least 2 guys from our company pass away from cancer, younger guys. I know we've had some others with scares. Trying to think if there was any other sicknesses that I can remember, but we had, I remember seeing burn pits and stuff, but we didn't have them a lot. But who knows? Over there, just in the air, they'd let off chlorine bombs, and who knows what else they were putting in bombs that it's going to get spread all over the place, and we're all going to breathe in. So, yeah, there has been some.
So that just reminded me of, the main key factor that makes my deployment so different from anyone I've ever heard from is, as I mentioned, this demilitarization. What I failed to mention is, for people that don't know what a demilitarization is, you have to get rid of everything military related. And when you're in a patrol base, that basically means this entire installation we were living in and people before us were living in has to completely disappear 100%. And when you're getting guys,
not by leaving it for the locals to take.
Well, they'll dig it up, but we'll make sure the only things they can dig up are only able to be used for maybe shrapnel. Everything else totally useless. And so when you're getting these guys that are like 18, 19, 20 for most of them, they're gonna do some dumb stuff, right? So we burned stuff that shouldn't have been burned. We set things on fire. So we had an armory, right? And this armory had stuff that we almost never get to touch. Explosive materials, explosive powder.
All the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff that you'd have to normally call in for approval, and they're not going to approve you. C4, anything and everything you could ever imagine from top to bottom. So we got to get rid of it. And some of these aren't really accounted for anymore, actually. It's just our command didn't want us using it. So a lot of explosive powder got put into the burn pit. Like I said, guys got dumped, so fire extinguishers got thrown into the burn pit. And that's a funny story because one of my buddies got on all the crummy details, and he came out one time like shaking and sweating. He's like, quit throwing fire extinguishers in the burn pit. He's like, one of them shot off like a rocket. Like, I nearly died. So So it got really dumb, but I mean, we had anything left over. We had tires, and if you've ever watched like Gilligan's Island or MASH or something, that's how they signal to helicopters as you burn the tire and it smokes up. So we had to do 3 days worth of security nonstop stay awake for this whole period of time, and all of that was all getting in our lungs, and you could not see a single cloud. You couldn't see the sun. It was completely blackened for more than a
Yeah.
day straight. And I'll be honest, when you're stuck in that situation, you're just kind of like, I don't even give a crud about what happens anytime. I'm here right now and I just want to get this done, and I don't really care. I'll accept whatever happens.
Well, at that time, you're also feeling pretty invincible. You're young, you're
Oh yeah.
surviving.
Nothing can get me, man. I dodged bullets. And
Yeah.
and that's another story I'll tap into next, but Um, man, when I got out though, we had another guy just like you said, he might have been 28 and he passed away from really rare cancers, but he did a couple other deployments on top of ours. I got a good buddy up in Ohio. He's got, I mean, like lymphoma and all these kind of other rare stuff. I myself, I had to get surgery. It's going to be hard to show on camera, but I had a weird bump they had to cut out of my neck as well. I got a buddy I met up with. He was in the same company, but he was in a different platoon. He was a rifleman. And he's telling me he has mystery material on his ankle that has to get scraped off. So, for anyone listening, if you hear like burn pits in the news or these kind of things, like there are real serious problems that we don't even
Yeah.
fully understand yet. And so many claims are getting denied just because people don't fully understand it yet. And a lot of symptoms are invisible or people aren't getting checked up as they should. My thing I got cut out of my neck, it's not what I'm diagnosed for burn pits for.
After we got back, we had a few guys trying to have kids, and they were having, me being one of it. I had to go through IVF to get my daughter. One guy I know for sure that was having some issues. Well, he's got like 17 kids now, so I think he figured it out. But I didn't know if that was a part of something that I went through there, from all the stuff that we breathed in or went through or ate or drank. I remember my captain talking one time over there when we were drinking waters that we got out of I think it was UAE where our water came from, and my captain said to me as he's sipping the water one day, he's like, you know what? If they really wanted to get us, all they do is poison all this water, something that takes maybe a year to take effect, and kill half the soldiers. And I start thinking,
Oh,
what could they have put in that water?
I don't know if you saw it today in one of these groups I was in. They're asking about thyroid issues with the water, and so many people in the comments were showing like surgical scars and stuff.
Hmm.
When I was over there, all of our water were on pallets. They were in HESCO barriers. They were all dumped them inside of a HESCO barrier, and they were just out in the sun all day. And everything we had in the PB, we maintained, we did ourselves. And one day, command comes down, and they're like, yeah, all that water you just stacked up, you got to unstack. Well, it turns out the ones we've been drinking for months and months, they had like salmonella contamination, and we had to completely unpack those. And we're just thinking like this
Oh, I got
stuff's
it in
been,
water. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not a
I,
scientist. I
I
don't know
don't
how
know
it works.
any of that, man. But it gets even worse because stuff's been getting soaked in the sun for months and months, and we're drinking that plastic. We're drinking that nasty Afghan dirt inside the drink, and we're enjoying the
Yeah.
salmonella too. I mean, you're in it. We take
Salmonella
man.
can really quench your thirst.
I don't know. I got some cool gun stories too. I mean, one of the first ones that's a secondhand one that I heard was one of our guys stationed in one of these other PBs at the same time. He was one of our sniper attachments. And to lay the field, I have the utmost respect for anybody that gets through sniper because their in-doc at the time was like special operations level difficult. People would get washed out just in the in-doc. And then in the Marine Corps, compared to the Army, you have to wait to go to sniper school. You're not really a sniper. You're just in the sniper unit. And
Right.
so for anybody that actually goes to sniper school, like you're definitely the best of the best. But all the best people I knew all went to sniper platoon. At any rate, so at another one of these patrol bases, there was a guy that had one of those Beretta M9s, right? And they just got shot at, and the guy hops on a motorcycle and he starts driving away. and the sniper just kind of puts his M9 right on the guy, gets a bead, and from all that distance away, very, very far away, gets a guy on a moving motorcycle with a pistol. And so that's how I heard
That's
of it as a
impressive.
secondhand story, because everybody in the whole unit was talking after that.
That would be quite an impressive shot.
The so I guess for a sniper, that's got to be like one of the top things to do. But as a machine gunner for us, it was always being able to like stand up and chicken wing the 240.
So you're looking like Rambo. You put 240 in each
Oh
arm.
yeah. Oh yeah, trust me. We all know it. We all know it. Like it looks cool with all the bullets on you and stuff, but
Yeah.
I was lazy. Like I would carry a shock belt and then I'd have like a few hundred rounds. And after a while, I'm like, I can just give my extra rounds to these riflemen. But one time, I give the rounds to one of my good buddies. His name's Jeff. And by the way, that 22 Jump Street, that was always the thing afterwards where they just go, "My name's Jeff," right?
That's what I thought of as
It's
soon as you said his name is Jeff.
yep. So I already saw the wheels turning there, but yeah, we all said it. But
Yeah.
you know, as a machine gunner or any weapons platoon, you get to use the riflemen. If you're a mortarman, they carry your mortars. If you're a machine gunner, you can give them your hundreds of rounds resupply. But I got lazy and I'm like, I'll carry my shock belt and I'm always going to have this guy on my back. So if I need the rounds, he can just feed them to me directly, right? And then we start doing satellite patrols, meaning that we're radioing with each other and we're very far away. So to the enemy force, we look like we're 10 times bigger. And then they start to divide us, though. Then they start to take like these 4 groups this way, 4 groups this way, because we realized very quick that one of us could easily take on at least 4 of the other guys, no problem. And so from my defensive posture was when they start to pull detachments. And there goes all my rounds. And I'm lucky with me, I have a team leader for a machine gun. So he has the automatic IAR. And at that time, I believe that was the H&K, that 27 that they just got, like the new cool thing at that time. And then I'm lucky we also have the corpsman and a 203 gunner. So in between me, when I say me, I mean me, the team leader behind me as well, and then the corpsman and the 203 gunner, there's a building. And I can't see inside the building, including to our rules. We're not allowed to go inside buildings. And I'm stuck right by this cow that keeps mooing the whole time, by the way. And as people start peeling back, I look back and I will tell you 100% accurately by memory what I saw is our dog handler is down in a defensive position. And, you know, there's the row of the riflemen all spaced out in a security posture. And dirt starts just kicking up from the ground. And I'd been there long enough that I looked and I screamed at him. I'm like, "You're getting shot at. You got to move." And when you're over there for too long, you just don't take stuff as seriously as you should. So thankfully, he didn't move his body into it and look at it, but he just kind of shrugged it off and slowly starts moving away. But every single one of those rounds was hitting the same exact spot. The only thing that tells me is they did not zero their weapons properly. And if they did, that man wouldn't be here today. So
Or they didn't know their distance.
or they didn't know their distance, but they were slightly to the left. So he got very lucky, and he will never understand how lucky he was because we weren't very close. But anyway, after he moves, then everybody else kind of goes somewhere else. And I don't have a radio. My team leader doesn't have a radio. The 203 gunner doesn't have a radio. And for the entire platoon, we have the corpsman. So we're all just kind of like, this is the defensive posture. We cannot turn it into an offensive posture as much as we would love to. So as I said, there's these buildings behind me. There's buildings to my west. And the corpsman and this guy are sandwiched in between 2 buildings. So they have that kind of cover. And out right in front of me, the whole area must have been a minimum of like 200 meters worth of just open nothing, right? Or 200 yards at least. You know, as a machine gunner, we use yards on the 50 cal. I know that for a fact. So 200 to 500 yards of nothingness, just waffle field. And then it's in a square patch, basically. So that's an open square patch. Around that square are buildings, those open mud hut buildings. And that's where we had to be receiving fire from. My issue is I don't really know where my friendlies are. And if you have a machine gun, you don't want to start pumping down all these rounds when you don't know where your good guys are.
Right.
And so another difficult thing is if they're using a rifle and they're way down, and we had what they call murder holes, which are like these little tiny holes inside the building, just enough to fit the barrel through. You can't see where they're shooting from. And so that rifle got away, right? And then I start taking way later, like hours later, from just sitting there, I start taking automatic fire. And then next thing I know, I'm trying to look for it, and I start seeing these little ants on top of the building. And in another area, we start taking automatic fire. And then I start to realize from this square that we're in, we basically got ambushed in a horseshoe formation. So not a full circle enclosure. We could egress, but you can't really move forward unless you're doing an offense. And so I start hammering down rounds at these ants, and they're so far away. I mean, they're as small as if you look at your fingernail. That's how tiny they were. And bam, I neutralized one target. And I tell our 2 or 3 gunner, I'm like, all right, here's where he is. Put a round right there. And what I didn't see, and he told me later, is he ended up being really short, and he just blew up all the chickens. All the chicken feathers and everything just starts blowing up. But the problem was that the bad guy was inside the compound. And that's another moral issue too, is you don't know what's inside these compounds, but if they're shooting from there, that becomes a real target. You're allowed to use that because that's their offensive position. So, but they were absolutely terrified of us. After you put a 203 down and you get that close to them, everything just goes silent. And we all agreed afterwards. I didn't know they felt the same, as we all just wanted to move towards those buildings. We all just wanted to run across. But the risk was none of us had a radio. And if any of us go down, you either lose your 203 asset, you lose your corpsman, you lose an automatic rifleman, that was my team leader, or you lose your machine gun asset.
Plus, you're already covered on 3 sides.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I neutralized one, I believed, and then one of them stopped firing because he just took a indirect fire. But that one was tricky because our welcome to the area, as we moved into this mobile patrol base, and by the way, the mobile patrol base used to be a mud hut that was abandoned, and we scouted it out and found out really for a fact the government even says nobody lives there. Knock it down, put stuff down, and then put a security posture on there. And after we finally settle in, we start taking these UGL rounds. So their version of the 203, but 20 mic, not 30. And our LT starts getting peppered because at first they're very far off. So far away, we're all just kind of laughing, like, just ignore it. And then it starts, the opposite end, really far in the opposite end. I'm like, these guys are stupid. Well, if you're a mortarman, you probably know what's coming next. That means then the next time back at that first end, they're a little bit closer. And then back at the other side, they're a little closer. They're bracketing you so they can start putting all the rounds right in the middle. And then none of us could see it. And LT starts going, he's screaming. He's like, just put rounds down. And the ROE was very, very, very strict. And he says, like, you cannot put rounds down unless for a 100% fact you see where they're coming from and you see their weapon and you see everything. Next thing I know, one of the riflemen that we put onto a machine gun, he starts putting rounds down. He's like, I see him. That was our welcome to the area, is our LT actually got peppered with shrapnel, and he denied getting a Purple Heart. And here's the interesting thing. I've seen in a lot of these groups is a lot of the guys that would have qualified for a Purple Heart, they don't get them. And then we did have people from our deployment. We had like 4 or 5 people get a Purple Heart. None of them were in my company, but only my company was the one running out of a patrol base. Everybody else was comfy in Leatherneck. They were all, doing operations out of there. One guy, and I'm never going to talk down anybody's Purple Heart, but I'm going to compare this to one that was awarded. Is they hit like either a bump or a really small IED, and that's not what they got it from. The gunner hit his head on the radio, and they wrote him a citation for that.
Mine is from TBI from when I got hit, when I got blown up.
Thankfully, you got it because I hear a lot of TBI guys like I'm rated for TBI. Do not get them.
Yeah. Well, if you actually read the manual, and I didn't know this, one of my guys that was in the vehicle with me was reading through the manual. If you read the manual, it lists concussion as valid for getting a Purple Heart.
I'm just thankful at least they gave you your proper awards because, like I told you, we didn't get our meritorious, we didn't get our presidential. Absolutely none of us got
I
any Purple
I think I
Heart.
got out before all that stuff came about with mine. Because I know some of my guys had those citations, but I still don't know what they are because I got out before they came down.
Every single one of us earned the combat action ribbon, which is the Marine Corps' equivalent for the combat
Cab.
award. And one of my buddies, who was requesting a new DD-214, and on the new one, he didn't even have that on there. The old one did. So
Yeah, we get that corrected.
yeah, he raised hell about that because that was the one thing he had to really show off. But I know a lot of people, they get out and they're like, I don't really care about my awards or whatever. But to me, it's kind of like that's the evidence that I did anything.
Once you got home and got back into the civilian life, did you have trouble or did you feel you had trouble readjusting? And if so, how'd you get through that?
So anyone that says no is just lying to themselves. They're not doing themselves a favor. So when I just got back, and let's say even before I became a civilian, right? And I told you that the rest of my career was all training deployments. And you start seeing these issues when people are active duty and they come back from any combat deployment, even just one. And I'm just trying to adjust. And like, no, nobody understands me, and I don't understand anyone else. And the only people that matter to me are the ones that I just deployed with. And where the heck are these guys? I wish I could be around them like 24/7, basically. And I'm coming to terms with like, hey, I definitely like there's people that don't exist because of me, and as a religious guy, kind of trying to find terms with that, and I go like, well, I never shot at anybody that didn't shoot at me first, at least, but then you start like mentally breaking down, and you find your ways to cope with that, and
That's when the
for
spiral starts.
it really does. It really does. So I've heard from some other people where, they take it out because that new generation right after them. And that's where a lot of these old issues where they talk about like hazing come about because you want to teach these new guys like this is not a joke. This is a matter of life and death. But they're going to learn that by themselves. And you're not going to cram that down anybody's throat. That's a lesson you individually have to learn. Even when I deployed, there were people that couldn't survive outside the wire. We had to keep them inside the base. It's a lesson that everybody takes differently, and so it took me a long time to cope. I actually called one of my boots at like 3 a.m. I'm like, here I am, and like the police are out looking for me, and you got to pick me up right now, buddy. And thank God I had some really good boots because no crud. He came at 3 in the morning and came and picked me up. We had guys that got dishonorably discharged because of their reactions to when they got home. And that was why it was a huge thing when I was in to solve everything in house because otherwise America might not even have a fighting force because every single person that goes through this is an unnatural, unhuman thing to do, has to find their own way to live with it. And so you got to solve if you put people through this, you have to make sure they come home just fine. You can't let them go out in town and get in trouble. You got to
That's right.
fix every single issue that they're going through. And it might be a legal issue, it might be a personal issue, and the hardest ones I believe might be these people that they're married and they come back and now they have to find themselves back in that situation. We don't have the correct resources to deal with this because everybody deals with it differently. And so
Yep.
finally, when I got out, it didn't just immediately go away just because my contract's over. I'm jealous and I'm angry. I'm like, why is this guy making six figures and he has the easiest job of all time? And he's got a 3-story house and he's got this perfect, happy family and he's never had anything difficult in his whole life. Well, what that started me on is more of like what I call mindfulness and a little bit of self reflection and realizing I'm in my own lane, he's in his own lane, being happy and thankful for other people when they succeed, trying your best to help your friends succeed and your family do well, and you set a good example for the people around you. So when I get angry, I at the end of the day, when everything's all over, and I get home and I think, why was I angry? Was it justified? Why was I sad? Why was I upset? And just kind of reflecting on how does that fit in? A lot of people never self-reflect and they keep thinking what I do is right and I did it, so it has to be correct. I ended up, moving overseas and I stayed there for a good 8 years. And when I finished here in the United States, I really hope to move back overseas. And because for me, it was completely separate from everything that I know here. It's more relaxing, it's warmer, the people are nicer, there's no military anything.
I
They
got a
don't
buddy
even
of mine
know.
who's in the Philippines right now. After he retired, he's like, it is the best. It is the best thing. He said, I love it.
Yep.
So
Where I live is really close to the Philippines, and I've gone there before. People are nice and happy and relaxed. So I've heard Thailand. Some people I don't like. Okay, Japan's good, but for living there all the time, I'm not sure. But my thing is, if all of that mindfulness doesn't help, you definitely have to find a complete new situation and just try changing things up and see how that works. It took me a good 8 years straight before I was finally like, all right, I'm over the military. I'm completely done. In fact, this podcast is probably the first time I've ever opened up any of these. In fact, even through after a whole entire hour of talking about it, I still feel like I didn't even cover everything.
yeah,
But the one thing I want to tell everyone listening that if they're still dealing with problems, remove yourself from the situation. Just try something new. What's it going to hurt? It can't be any worse than right now.
and I want people to be able to come on here and talk. And this has been so therapeutic for me. And I say this all the time, but just get to talk to guys like you, hear your stories, hear how you dealt with things, and it makes me realize, hey, I'm not alone. We go through the same things. The stories I hear are the same over and over and over and over. That's why I'm like, why aren't we doing something to help each other? And this is my way of doing it. This is my way of trying.
Yeah. Well, coming back to the United States, Veterans Day has felt so amazing. It was a day that I had all just me to myself. And, I'm like, let me get some of that free food, right? Like we all do. And I'm all by myself, though. And sometimes you go to these restaurants and there's so many veterans in this area where we all just kind of agreed to share tables. And that was my opportunity to hear from people that like went to Iraq or went to Vietnam.
That's a really
And
good
so
idea.
I want to say that there's people that had the same experience as me, but there's so many more people that did not do any kind of combat job, and it's just like you said, therapeutic just to hear about all these different experiences and how it was for everybody else.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for coming on the program. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Like you said, I think we haven't even scratched the surface. So maybe someday in the future we can do another one and we can get into little deeper stories or a little deeper conversation. But thank you so much for coming on. It's been awesome.
If you ever need a guest, just drop me a line.
All right, we'll do. If you made it to the end, thank you. These conversations aren't for clicks, they're for connection. If something Jay said hit you right in the chest, then remember that. Text a buddy, call a friend, talk to your spouse, talk to your pastor, talk to a counselor. Just don't sit alone with it. And if you're the guy who's fine, but not sleeping well, not laughing, not enjoying life the way you used to, that isn't weakness, it's a warning light. You're not broken, you're not alone, and you don't have to carry it quietly. This has been Echoes Unfiltered. Real talk, raw faith, stay unfiltered, and God bless.